I mean,
I just think like the overall design is very, 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 very nice.
yeah, I get that.
We have a start a blooming marsh into wild growth on Grist side, and here is a I always soporific springs.
Uh,
Soporific springs, I guess. Yes, baby. Here we go. Da, da, da. It's a wash away. I was actually thinking about the stern scolding because it also takes care of Grist, but wash away does the job. A
pro-
beautiful plains coming in, and yeah, I mean, we see a York moth. Oh yeah, nice. Showing us his hand. Apart from the York moth, you would wish for cards that can't be countered. That's a Dried Arbor, it seems. Yeah. Coming
Riot
down.
Arbor, a lot of the time, a very awkward card to have in play, especially like in these, these decks play Elminster plays Wrath of Skies, Elminster plays uh, so many board wipes where, they are putting down creatures to handle um, what you're doing, but incidentally, the board wipe also kills your Riot Arbor.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it might actually be correct. Not sure what he has, all the cards he has in hand, but it might also be correct to actually clamp the arbor. Yeah, then that's what he's doing. That does put a creature in the put the first card into the graveyard for the Hogak he has in hand. He drew a Windswept Heath to do something more, and yeah, unfortunately, not finding a mana dork. That would have been a great find to kind of top off the curve here.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Yeah, we saw a Hogak in his hand. What is that card? Is it a rest in peace? It seems to be a rest in peace, right?
um,
Let me check.
yeah. If it is a rest in peace, then rest in peace,
Yeah.
Grist. This it shuts down the Skull Clamp. It shuts down. He's already missed a land drop from.
Oh, I've
Um,
never seen this artwork, but to my defense, there are plenty of rest in peace artworks as I've just seen. Yeah, it's
okay,
a rest in
yeah,
peace. So there might be a Helm of Obedience in the 99.
I
If
would
not,
expect so. Playing those two cards together,
yeah,
playing one card, sort of means you are probably playing the other card. I would say. Um,
I mean, you can also just play it because it's currently a pretty good fit in the metagame.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah,
But
we
I would
talked
I,
about
I
it
would say
recently
the
in another cast of the Strasbourg event, and we talked about that we're at a point at which reconsidering Rest in Peace. It was in combination with Kit Ramos. In Kit Ramos, it's not as good as you would like it to be. The mono black CMC1 card we've seen previously, coming from the CDC deck, is much better since you get to
yeah.
draw cards step by step. And here it's a replacement effect, which means you don't draw any cards. And here we have a subtlety for grief. So the Battle of Elementals. That's not too bad. Put to the top of the library. Yeah, and maybe next turn we have a pitched grief that. Oh, there's a parallax wave on Elminster's side. Very interesting. I would not expect the deck to play this card, to be honest. With that many sweepers, you can't really make. I don't know. You can't really get an advantage on your side with the card, I would imagine. I mean, it depends on the creatures that you feature.
Mm. Yeah, I agree.
Let's see about that. It definitely interacts very well with the Skull Clamp right now. You know, taking away those tokens. If you decide to play them instead, the Boggart. No, it's not called Boggart Bog, but it's the
I
Bog.
think it is.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe. Let's see. Lol. Wizards has been very creative with this one. So we're going to have a
Yeah, no,
little,
it is.
a
Yeah,
little,
Bog and Bog.
a little walk through the Boggart Bog. It definitely looks like a goblinish or goblin-y, whatever. A landscape that goblins would live in
True.
or on. Could. Oh, that's the Rootstein, right? Not the old Rootstein, but the honest Rootstein it is.
I've never seen this card before.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
never mind.
interesting.
Never mind. Never mind. I have seen this card before. I thought we were talking about the token. I thought the token that's in play is the Rootstein you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, honest Rootstein,
Was it an honest
a lot
Rootstein?
of value. Yeah, it is. You
Yeah,
can see
yeah,
the orange
yeah,
in the
yeah,
background there.
true.
A lot of value, but Hogak is dead against the Rest in Peace.
Yeah.
Honest Rootstein is a lot worse against the Rest in Peace. Living Death is very bad against the Rest in Peace. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is the Rest in Peace does a lot of work in this matchup.
Yeah, I think basically you
Um,
have to find something to deal with the enchantment before you start doing other things. Formidable Speaker is, by the way, a really cool inclusion. I assume that Grist is featuring Aluren and Azerorak, which is also currently a deck played in Legacy, right? Where you find yourself a speaker. And
yeah,
now the Grief reveals Cryptic Command, Brain Search, Path to Exile, actually. And I think the other card is a Day of Judgment, the Mystical Archive variant.
yeah, looks like it. So definitely a difficult hand to kind of get a line into. The Swords to Plowshares doesn't do too much.
Or is it an Aweless Dust?
Actually, yeah, that does look like the secret layer all this dust.
Yeah, it's also a Mystical Archive. Yeah. They look similar. I think it's an Aweless Dust. Right? Could be. Interesting. Very interesting to play this card. The fifth land on field is probably this Emeria spell that
Yep.
creates angel tokens, right?
Yeah, it does.
Not exactly sure how it's called. Emeria's Call. There we go. On the backside, being a land. And a beautiful one. I have this card sitting in my binder for ages.
Same.
Token from Team Pedofas. The Grist token, you mean? It's a Kellic token. That's cool. I've just seen the treasure tokens with the Kellogg's. That's funny actually.
Yeah, those are cool tokens.
Yeah. You get to pick one too, right? When you play Don't Clamp.
I have the treasure with me in
Okay, cool.
my tokens box. The cereal treasure.
The Kellic treasure, yeah. So, what is Elminster up to? As you already said, this is going to be a very long game. That's what Elminster games are usually prepared for, or like Elminster pilots are prepared for that. But you know, if you're sitting on the opposing side, you might not always want to play for that long. Yeah, as you said, so many useless cards. It does not seem to be an Aldous Dust. Seems to be a different card. No?
Um.
Seems to be some kind of trade for 1 mana. Be a Swords? It looks
Oh,
like
it
a.
could be the special guest version of Condemn.
Oh yeah, that's it. With the elephant? Yeah. Right? Yeah, it's this. It's this. Ah, that's cool. I like it. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, here we go. Crazy cool artwork. I really love it. That's
Yeah.
definitely the elephant. I haven't had that one in mind.
Yeah, Condemn is a card that
Oh, that's so
is a
cool.
it's a cool card. Where the opponent gaining life equal to the toughness is not really that relevant, but especially in the Elminster games where he was playing Approach of the Second Sun to win the game that way, and things like that. Um,
Yeah. But
but
just, yesterday we talked about or on Thursday we talked about like frames that we like a lot in
yes,
Magic, and you are a big fan of the Mystical Archive frame, and I also
absolutely,
think it's
absolutely,
super beautiful. And this card is just, it really speaks to me.
yeah,
Really cool.
yeah. And it's actually not very expensive, probably because Condemn is a card that doesn't get played much.
Yeah, that's true. But every now and then we see it in 2 or 3 colored control decks, as
Yeah.
it's now the case with Azorius. Definitely makes sense here. So what is going on? There is a judge call apparently.
Ah, he has milled one of the few insects in the list, and they
Ah,
are checking to see if the milled card counts, basically.
yeah, it does. It's I think the Grist ability does not care about where the card goes to. That's usually the case with most of those abilities. Also, if you, for example, if you have a Grenzo and there's a wheel of how's it called? Sun and Moon? Yeah, Wheel of Sun and Moon and stuff. Even if the card goes back to the bottom of your library, it would still be put onto the battlefield if Grenzo, if the power is 2 or less, or according to the
That's an
what is,
interesting interaction.
yeah, it is.
Feels like something that comes up very rarely, especially because, like, the Grenzo ability is, I think it's unique so far, right? There are a lot of cards that put cards from the to the bottom of the library, but very few cards that get them back from the bottom of the library.
Yeah, that's very true. So
Yeah, I would also say that the milled card is still a milled card, and it will.
yeah, you can
Uh,
just read it
yeah,
yourself and people can figure it out. I mean, yeah, it's just a
doesn't
mill
matter
card, no
where
matter
the
what.
it's still an insect, and
Exactly.
it's still a
And
milled
and
card. Yeah.
as we saw, the forest is exiled, and there's another Grist token on field. So yeah,
Okay, so I don't know. I if I was the Grist player here, I don't know if I would still be playing this game. I feel like looking at the way the matchup is going, Grist is not going to be able to ultimate. Um, and yeah, we'll see. We will definitely see how it ends up. Maybe he still has a lot of hope in this Yawgmoth. Um, but the ability for Elminster to keep the board clear with 6 mana in play is definitely pretty high. The Elminster deck has got a great level of pimp, beautiful basics, and lots of cool cards. I wonder why I was a bit distracted in the last couple of rounds, but I wonder why the Grist has not minus to kill the Elminster yet. Because untapping with Elminster and getting to set up some things is pretty strong. Well,
So, I had to leave for a short time. I'm back.
welcome back.
And we are looking at a board state that didn't really change that much.
Yeah. Elminster surveilled at the end of the turn, put an island in the graveyard, and Serum Visioned with his commander and has passed the turn. So
Yeah, what I do not understand is why you would not try to get rid of Elminster.
I said the exact same thing last turn.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what the rest of his play is going to be like. Maybe he wants to be drawing cards with the Yawgmoth.
Hmm.
But yeah, so there's a loose focus for the Yawgmoth. And now I would expect him to minus the Grist and attack for 1.
Because you can't do anything with the ultimate.
Yeah.
So you would probably just, yeah, right. Planeswalker for a token. That is Stifle. The path to exile in response. Getting rid of the honest Rootstein.
Not sure if he's running a Tainted Pact mana base. No, he's not. He has several different swamps. But the P-Wave was on no counters at the end of the turn. So he didn't use any, did he?
Didn't he exile a couple of insects?
Yeah,
Or
I think so too. But oh, I mean, this is got to be a frustrating draw
definitely,
to
yeah.
find an Eternal Witness. Here, you have to cast it in order to put more pressure on the board. But yeah, now Elminster just gets to wait for some form of board interaction.
Just when you were happy to mill the buried alive, which is absolutely useless in that case,
Yeah.
in that situation, you find another card that is basically useless in
So
combination.
um, he does have a couple of cards that take care of the rest in peace. A Cankerbloom, a Haywire Might, and yeah, a Boseiju, and an Abrupt Decay. So they do exist, but and he also has cards like Ouroboros and I think we have seen a Grief, right? But something like a Frenzied Baloth. He has a bunch of cards that he could draw that would be great.
Yeah.
If he keeps drawing cards that interact with the graveyard, that just really feels bad. I mean, he does play a lot of cards that interact with the graveyard, but yeah.
And there is a double security. If you thought that dealing with Rest in Peace would be enough, not quite the case. Here we have a Sanctifier coming down, and what is that card? The Phantasmal Image? No,
That's to
can't be the
solve the
case.
equation.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
So we might see a solve the equation. No, I don't think he's going to be going for a Wrath the Skies. Okay, he's just going for approach. Interesting. Interesting approach.
In
But yeah,
fact,
the 7 life gained, um, with a very slow clock going on the Grist side currently, is absolutely relevant. He just gets to cast it and say go. We're at a 20-minute or 25-minute game 1 so far. And we'll see how, like, this might be a point for Grist to concede, because he could he can get out of it, but he has 2 cards in play which are really bad for him. Could cast the Living End just to get the Sanctifier off the board. Oh, this
yeah, but then
is, yeah, another
you
card.
have no board, and you're left with. Oh, that's so awkward.
Oh, he could have cast it after. He could have cast the Moonshadow after the Living End.
But it doesn't work in combination with the Shadow Spear, right? With the come on.
Well, no, I mean, what I'm saying is he would be sacrificing his whole board for the opponent's board. But the Sanctifier is a strong enough blocker, I would say, to
That's a Approach the Second Sun, right?
yeah. That's what he got with the solve the equation.
Yeah. Another cool mystical archive
True.
imp here, so very consistent in that regards. If this spell was cast from your hand, if you cast another spell, you win the game. Otherwise, you put this on a levy 7 from the top, and since you are scrying with the help of Elminster, it's not too unlikely to find it again
Yeah.
at a later point.
There is a Yavimaya in play, which means that he could tap his fetch lands without using them. But yeah, I think this creature clock is just not quite fast enough.
No,
It's
I
going to be
think so
4 damage.
too. I mean,
The Moon Shadow's never going to grow.
the Emperor is extremely useless here.
Well, it is extremely useless, but it is a 5-power creature in the end, right?
That's
Because he can
correct.
just
You
he
can
can
still
activate
adapt
it.
it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But
So
then again, I mean, Elminster just has to find this one sweeper, and the game is over.
yeah, and he also can now he's 7th from the top, so it's now 5 cards down after having drawn 2 cards.
Yeah.
He can cast his commander, which gets him another 2 cards down. And next turn he does get to block the Emperor.
I mean, you can
With protection.
also create a number of mana value. Okay.
So he used his scry, which means 1 card drawn, 2 cards bottom. So the approach is 2 cards down. He draws a card for turn, upticks Elminster, and wins the game currently.
Exactly.
Which means that Grist has to find lethal somehow this turn. He's at 10, and with the Emperor being blocked, he's currently doing 5 damage. If he goes to combat, he did not draw the cards he needs.
Oh, let me see.
Oh, but so the Elminster will be off the board next turn. because he can just -2 to kill the Elminster, which means the approach win is delayed by 1 turn if there was no additional card draw found.
That's true. There's a Llanowar Elves. I would rather try to convert my tokens with the Skull Clamp here, I guess.
Well, the creatures don't die.
Oh, true.
That's been the issue for most of the game.
That's the entire. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, one more card till approach. If he has any way to... There's a counter spell there.
Counterspell also in the Mystical Archive fashion. Again, very consistent. Misty.
He is at 5.
Enforce. Is that a Seagate Restoration?
All kind of useless right now.
Yeah, right. So, going. Oof. Oof. That's.
Oh, if he...
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
now he's creating blockers. Selling,
but that does take the win condition off the board. So...
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate here, I would say.
I wonder if... Is this the time? Is this the time to cast the Living End? For the Grist player.
Yeah, it might be. What is that? Is it a personal tutor? It's a personal tutor.
That is a personal tutor.
Yeah. We have seen too many cards, my friend.
I like this artwork.
Me too. It's a really cool one. With
kind
the
of
birds in the background.
Strixhaven teaching.
Yeah.
Teaching students things.
Really cool one.
Let's see what sorceries he has left. Oh, we see a moat in the deck.
Oh, that's a reason to play Elminster 4.
Yeah, I mean, you could also just not, right?
That's very true.
I feel like looking at the deck now, he has to win. He has to win with all the 1/1s. And yeah, Wrath the Skies. Why would you get a Wrath the Skies? No, because the Rest in Peace is what's saving you here. Okay, so he's declared the card that he's gonna get, I guess. He could still fail to find.
It's a farewell. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
The farewell does not deal with planeswalkers.
And it also
so Grist is still around.
Gets rid of your own
well, no, you don't have to. You don't have to go for enchantments.
Oh, right. True. It's not mandatory. Correct.
What is happening now? Yeah, okay. I was about to say, yeah, this is time for the Living Death. Does deal with all of the 1/1s. Which are pretty, like, it makes his board useless. So.
And it also makes his find with the personal tutor useless, right?
Yeah.
Because you've just wasted the tutor to search for another sweeper that actually does not deal with Grist, as you mentioned earlier. And I mean, you're on 5 HP, but the way this game goes right now, to me, it looks like both are desperately fighting for the 1-0. And here we have the Seagate Restoration.
Which draws him 2 cards with...
Yeah.
Oh, no, 3 cards. I think he has 3 cards in hand.
4 then, right? The amount of cards you have in hand plus an additional one.
Yeah, +1. Okay.
Yeah, it's not the craziest card draw. Spell for 7
For 7
mana,
mana.
but you know,
Yeah.
you take what you get. Yeah, it's a crazy game so far, I think. So it's really interesting.
I think he just drew, from the artwork I saw a little bit of it, I think he just drew a lively dirge.
That would be very
I mean,
Oh, and a
that's
Frenzied Bellow goes to the graveyard. That's unfortunate.
that would
That's
have been a
very
great card.
unfortunate, yeah. We have an Otawara. Okay. Bouncing Grist.
Oh.
Is that possible?
Yeah, Otawara bounces
Oh,
planeswalkers.
it also bounces Planeswalker, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
He also has a Tails End in hand now, which means that Boseiju is not a live top deck anymore to deal with the Rest in Peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a half an hour game. Or a 35-minute game 1. And there's no end in sight, I would say, because Elminster still has to... Like, there still has to be a window for Elminster to downtick. Yeah, so we have artifacts and creatures exiled with a farewell. I think this is the least impressive farewell that's ever resolved in this game.
Especially because it was a 1/1 token coming from Grist.
Yeah, a 1/1 token and a Skull Clamp that doesn't do anything because of Rest in Peace in play.
But you know,
I feel like...
oh, the Shifting Woodlands is exceptionally useless. Here we have the Tails End. Oh, Jesus. Grist
Yeah,
might come
Tails
down
End.
again. Oh,
And
man. This is okay.
does she cost 7 already? Then I guess he
It
can't
seems
cast her, passes the turn. This Hogak has been a
looking at the
pillar of
game.
uselessness all
Yeah.
game. He had it in the starting hand and just nothing. Oh, he did. We see the thumbs up for the Mystic Sanctuary here. Yeah, I gotta be honest. I don't think I would have fun taking Elminster to a tournament.
I think he's having quite a lot of fun here because for some
mean,
reason he managed to maneuver himself out of that. At some
I think
point,
he
I
was
was
very ahead for a long time.
yeah, that's true. But at some point, I thought that Grist would take it home, given the amount of creatures and
I
stuff.
was always skeptical because he does, like, looking at his list. We don't have the full list because there was some issues with the submission.
Is it what I
But
think it is? The
he does
creature?
play like 5 board wipes, which just means that whatever is coming down. This is Bruna,
Yeah,
whatever it's called.
it
I think it's
really
called
is, right? No,
Bruna.
it's not Bruno.
No,
Nah.
Bruma with an M.
Oh, let me check. That would
Br-
be
Is it
no.
Beza? I think I'm looking at the French names, and I think it's called Beza in French.
BESR?
No, with a
BESA?
Z.
Ugh. I think this is the yeah. That's right.
Yeah,
BESA. Here we go.
I thought this was
Interesting.
a bear, but it's
It's an
an
elk.
elk.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how a
no
bear
treasure
looks in your
created.
universe, but we have a 1-0 on Elminster's side on 4 decent mana cost, I would say. Obviously, a bit tied to the Bloomborough design. It's producing fish tokens instead of anything else. But yeah. It's basically the sunset on stick, just that in addition it creates a treasure token, right? So, Gitaxian Probe revealing a survival of the fittest, fatal push, 3 lands, So it looks like we have a turn 2 Grist coming down, and the fact that Elminster is about to fetch looks like there is an interaction for the dog coming down. But it's the stone instead, that's fine. So you have a 3 turn 2 Grist cast. The card is not as scary as Rest in Peace was, because you get to mill all of your cards and you get to cast a Hogak by delving spells or cards from the graveyard and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So that's definitely not bad. This board state looks better for Grist, I would say, in comparison to last game. Is it Flagstones of Troka here? Yeah, it is. The good old Flagstones.
One of my all-time favorite cards in this game.
Really? How comes?
I used it in multiplayer decks with like my first deck that I really tuned a lot was a 5-color lands deck where I would sack it with squandered resources and do cool stuff with that. And I just love the design of the deck of the card, and it has some like a Knight of the White Orchid to ramp, or a Cleansing Wildfire to ramp with it. These sorts of lines I think are pretty cool.
Yeah, I can see that.
Also a card that plays very interestingly with the legend rule,
That's true, yeah.
which is pretty rare for like in a sort of play design sense. A card like what's it called? A card like discarding a Hogak into the survival of the fittest. Very cool line.
Powerful, yeah.
Like we have maybe Ajani as a card that works well with a legend rule, and Flagstones is a card that works well with a legend rule. But there isn't that much else that you are kind of looping with a legend rule. Maybe things like Mox Amber and Mox Opal having the ability to put themselves back in the graveyard instantly is relevant in some modern metagames. Doesn't come to fruition much in Duel Commander, but yeah, in these kind of 60 card formats, Flagstones it occupies a very interesting niche in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, it basically doesn't matter in Singleton formats, but can definitely have an impact. I think the Ajani case has the most impact right now
Yeah.
with Boros Energy and other decks that feature it. So Hogak's still searching for something?
Yeah, he's looking at the decision between Frenzied Baloth and Orcish Bowmaster.
Yeah.
Both cards that represent damage and are good against the game plan. I think it would be a pretty big blowout to have the Hogak countered once you cast it. So I totally get getting that. Next turn he can cast it, attack with it for 3, uptick Grist, and then he has enough to cast an uncounterable Hogak. If there's no stone sacked, but the stone might get sacked, and then he still has the Baloth around. I'm guessing the stone will get sacked at some point in this turn. Currently, he would need, I don't know what he could have in order to just cast the...
Yeah, now in response to that,
Yeah,
you
he
should
has to sack the
grab it.
stone.
Ah, not yet actually, because it was only 6.
Well, no, he gets a...
Oh, he
He
gets
had...
the token plus the
Yeah, he
bill.
gets
Yeah,
a
true, true,
token
true.
and...
True, true, true.
Yeah. But now he gets to cast the... I don't know what the other card is. He's full of lands here, but he gets to cast the Baloth and attack for 6 with a Fatal Push open. This is a lot of potential damage. Also, the Bird of Paradise is in the graveyard. If we see a board wipe here, that will likely not kill the Grist. And that will put 2 more creatures in the graveyard. And we will be moving towards a
Parallax wave,
Parallax Wave.
as it's always the case. I
We'll be
love
moving
it.
towards a Grist Ultimate at some point here. I'm guessing the Baloth is going to get... Oh, okay. He's taking everything.
Very aggressive here, actually.
Yeah, I would say so. I think so too. Don't really see a reason, especially at 10. Don't really see that much of a reason to take the tokens right away. He drew a Marionette Apprentice. Grist ticks up to 7.
So with a Rexian Tower coming down. Oh, we have the marionettes, yeah.
I think it might have been worth to shock. But I don't know what the...
You have to mind your pronunciation, by the way. It's Apprentice, right? Shoutouts
Yeah,
to Margin
yeah.
at that point.
That's also... What have you been saying the whole time? Swift of reconfiguration.
Yeah, well, that's you keep saying Elminster for the entire stream, so I think it's fine.
Is that not what it's called?
No, it's called Elminster.
Fair enough. Wait, have I been saying? I think I've been saying Elminster.
I will show you the recording.
Okay, fair
Now you
enough.
said it. Bezos. Bezos, yeah. Beza the Bounding Spring. We're looking at a swamp in hand and another card that
Some old boarded
it's a contamination,
card.
right? Looks like a contamination. Which would be
Yeah, it is
very
a
powerful.
contamination, yeah.
Would be very powerful if that comes down.
We have a... But yeah, attacking first, I think is correct here. Wandering Emperor.
Yeah.
He can't make a token with the Emperor. He can, sack the Apprentice to put it in the graveyard, which makes the Grist Ultimate better.
Yeah.
Also denies the 2 life gain from the Wandering Emperor.
I love this card. This is Wandering Emperor. I mean, it doesn't see too much play, but I think this is such a cool card. Solid abilities, not too pushed. I really like it. It's something that you...
I missed... What happened here? How did
The
he kill the Emperor?
with the Grist, right? No?
With the Grist. Okay.
Yeah. And that's a concession here on Elminster's side, saying, okay, I can't deal with the
Absolutely fair.
contamination, which makes
The
sense.
Baloth comes back next turn.
Yeah.
But now we are 1-1, and
Yeah, that's...
we are very likely going to see a draw. I don't see Elminster winning the game before turn 15.
So we have 50 people watching the stream together with us. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed as much as we do. At least we tried to provide some interesting games, but so far I think we had some really cool magic going on here.
Yeah. Yep.
Also regarding the decks, we don't want to see the X Spider-Man, which might be played in the top 8. We will not get around that. But here in the games, in the Swiss rounds, we can choose what to have a look at and whatnot. And Elminster is a deck some people might say is a bit boring, but I kind of like those piles that actually dodge the creature interaction and playing over costly 6 mana board wipes and stuff like this. So I like to see that deck from time to time. I wouldn't play it myself. I agree to you, but it's a bit refreshing in terms of watching Control playing Control.
Mm-hmm. Is that a Seachrome Coast?
I think that's the Seachrome Coast, yes. A second. See the full art.
So
Oh no, it's an
interestingly
an
enough,
Adaka waste. I think it's an Adaka waste.
Interestingly enough, he has a counterspell in hand and decided not to counterspell the
Is it an Adaka waste? Is it this Adaka waste? Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, going for the underground mortuary. Having a look. Yeah, and now, I mean, let's be honest, I think if it isn't for rest and peace into Helm, I don't see like a very fast win condition. Since neither of these players actually benefits from a draw here. I would also play it out.
Yeah.
But, Elminster has a control over the board. And there's no chance for him to win the game here, I think. There are 30
I'm curious
seconds.
to see. I think he might have an opposition aid in hand. No, that's an endurance on the top of his hand.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, yeah, I don't quite. I don't like just saying go without doing anything unless you do have something to do with
Yeah,
flash,
which is the case.
which is the case. I think there's a Force of Negation and a counterspell in hand. We might see the counterspell cast, but we actually don't. We see the Endurance Resolve, put down the graveyard, and if they're being strict about it, this is the first extra turn. No, never mind, it's not. The turn has started before the first extra turn, before this, so Elminster's next turn will be the next extra turn. And
Which is
yeah, he
even
has to.
worse because that means that Grist gets to play 3 more turns. While
No,
Elminster.
the player who takes the first extra turn is the one who gets another turn. We play 5 extra turns.
Yeah. But it was at the end of turn when they stopped the clock, no? Or was it already
I
in
think
Grist's
they're
turn?
currently
Okay,
they're
okay. Yeah.
not yet playing the first extra turn, I
Okay,
think.
okay. Yeah, then Elminster has 5 turns. 3 turns, that's
Yeah.
true. So here we have a 4/3 endurance coming in.
I think there is a Swords to Plowshares in hand.
Oh, a Solitude.
Ah, Solitude, okay.
Does the job.
Gains 4 life. And he's Swords to Plowshares is himself in order to have 5 mana next turn to play his commander. Interesting. Yeah,
No, it's a
he
path
does
to
have.
exile. It's not assaults. Path. I was confused
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I
No,
didn't look at
we
the
are.
cards. Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, Path to Exile. I'm not used to saying the name of the card because it's not in many Duel Commander decks anymore.
that's very true.
Um, yeah, we see Elminster cast.
So now we are in extra turn 1.
He would have to make a land drop now, make another land drop next turn, and have approach in order to win. And have approach in hand now, then uptick Elminster and uptick Elminster again the turn afterwards to win, which just casting Grist gets by, right? Because Grist
Yeah.
makes a token now, and next turn he can sacrifice a token to kill Elminster.
But again, if there is it? It's a condemn again, right? In hand.
See it? But okay, so he's basically already doomed now that he has upticked Elminster before casting the approach, if he wants to naturally use the approach.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have it in hand yet, then that's of course, but
There is the approach. But how does he? It's reduced, right? Reduced
it's
cost.
reduced.
Yep.
So now he has to draw a lot of cards next turn before casting it somehow.
Yeah. So did he find that within the top cards? Probably, right?
Maybe. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Grist can tick down to
Yep.
kill Elminster.
Maybe you find
Oh, he ticks up Grist.
what? Really?
Maybe he has something else in hand, but attack you.
It would be super cool to see Elminster taking the game in the 5th extra turn with a second cast of Approach of the Second Sun, right?
It would definitely.
It would be super, super cool.
I feel like if he doesn't have an answer in hand for Elminster, that feels really weird. But I don't see anything in the list that could do something.
You mean looking at Grist now?
Yeah, looking at the Grist list, he's already past combat. There's no haste.
And he concedes? Is that a concession?
Don't know.
I mean, Shurikai comes down, costs 5.
Oh, Shurikai is the wrong thing to be casting here. If he
Right? Yeah. I mean,
maybe
it could be
they have
another
some
land drop. Maybe they have some an agreement, you
agreement.
mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
Because
don't know about that.
if he casts any spell before the approach, that spell will be discounted and approach will cost 7, and he only has 6 lands in play. So even if he plays a land, any spell before the approach would stop him from playing the approach.
True.